Happy Sunday, one and all. It is Sharla Kornegay coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends Academy live episode. Hope your Sunday is going well. I am an author, a recording artist, creator of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, which is my group coaching subscription-based membership. Thank you and welcome if you're new to the podcast. Welcome to my returners, my people that make this show so great for me. So I appreciate, being as always on with you guys tonight. Hopefully we'll get into another great discussion. And if you want to check out any of my music, I go by Sharla K when I'm on the stage, SHARLAK. Check me out on any of your music platforms. Definitely stream the music. Hopefully you'll find a song that you like, love, etc. One that you'll put on repeat, or many that you'll put on repeat over and over again. I would love that. Hey, Justin, how are you? And definitely, if you're new to the podcast and you hear anything that you like that resonates with you, which I hope you do, that is the main reason why I'm doing this. I hope that you will, of course, go to my YouTube channel. Forever Friends Academy is the name, same as the show. Definitely subscribe to the channel, like, comment, spread the word so that this content can be spread. So that is enough about the show, as far as like why I started it, who I am. And we are going to get into it tonight. Tonight is Sunday relationship scenarios, where I present a scenario to you guys and you get to be the coach, the therapist to help this couple or whoever it is. I present in the scenario. We get to help them out and then extract some truths, some principles from it without being, emotionally compromised, because you know what? It's not our issue. So hopefully you like the scenario for tonight. But I usually start with a quote, and I was trying to think whether I was going to put the quote out first in the question, or whether I wanted to kind of present it within the scenario. Because some quotes, I feel like if I put the quote out first, then, I feel like it's going to persuade your answer in the scenario. So I think what I'm going to do is probably put it in the scenario. Because I feel like let me see. Yeah, I'm going to put in the scenario. I'm going to put the quote in the scenario, but I will throw out, I guess, the question that goes along with it tonight. And I guess I'll put it in a little short where it will be a question, but it'll allude to the scenario that I'm going to bring up tonight. So my first question that I'll throw out to you guys is, anyone on here, both men and women, hopefully I have both genders on here, but do you think it would be a good idea for the government to enforce, I guess, mandatory DNA tests at birth? Do you think, maybe someone, wanted to present this as a law, present it as a bill, I don't know, et cetera, and they proposed doing, or ordering mandatory DNA tests at birth? Do you think would you be in favor for that, or would you be against it? Do you think that if something like that was enforced, that it would help people, maybe be more mindful about their actions, be more prudent about some of the actions that they choose? And do you think it would be something that would help to, inspire more people to move towards having, not that you have to be married to have a child, right? But do you think that it would inspire people to move more towards having honor for the nuclear family, or when they choose to bring a child in this world, to bring it in, the child within the world within a certain dynamic and state? So let me know what your thoughts are. That's the question for tonight. I'm going to put the quote in my scenario for tonight, and then you guys can let me know. Oh, no problem. Justin said he's happy to be in the building. I'm happy you're in the building too, Justin. I'm happy you're in the building. All right. So I'm going to pop up the scenario to you guys tonight. All right, so tonight's scenario is we have a couple. We have a couple that say they have been dating for pretty much, let's say they have been going out for a year. All right, going out for a year. He felt like he knew immediately, basically, that she was going to be, he was going to make her his wife and that she was the one that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. So he proposes, and now they are going to, like premarital counseling, right? Hey, Ace, how are you? Thank you for popping in. You just popped in. I'm introducing the scenario for tonight. Let me know what your thoughts on it, right? So they are now doing premarital counseling. So, of course, during premarital counseling, they talk about family planning, right? And so in the premarital counseling, the issue comes up, or it becomes an issue, rather. The topic comes up, and then it swiftly becomes an issue between them, where he states that when they do, finally get married, that he would like to draw up a contractual agreement that whenever they have children, that there will be DNA tests done at birth. She, the wife-to-be, is kind of startled at this, one, because, of course, they've talked about this casually before, but not so in-depth as they are now because they're in counseling, right? And so this is the first time she's really ever heard him say something like this. And so for her, she is like, why would we have to do that? It's automatically making her feel that there's some trust issues, or why would he even consider or think that she would, do something like that in the relationship, and that basically she feels that there's no need for it, right? And so he begins to tell her, that basically the reason why he wants to do it is not because he has trust issues or anything like that, but he has come across people also, intimate people in his family who have gone through that, where they thought that the child was theirs, and for many years, fathered that child, but then it turned out that the child wasn't theirs. And so he feels like, because he has seen that happen, he is now feeling like the choice that he's making, or the structure or the system that he wants to put in play, is him just taking the wisdom to, safeguard himself from it, but also that it's just wisdom because he has heard people in his family go through this. So for her, she's thinking of it in a different way. She's thinking like, oh no, I don't think it's wisdom at all that you're proceeding with. I think that, it most definitely for me is going to trigger that there's lack of trust on your end, in thinking that I could even come up and do something like that. And two, I think it's more of your trauma of experiencing it that's causing you to now want to insert this into our relationship. And I don't want your trauma, I want us to deal with the trauma, but I don't want to lead our lives with the trauma that you've experienced from your past family members or friends or whoever you have, experienced, or have they told you that they went through this experience. That's them, that's not us, right? And so basically the two the dividing issue is he wants to put contractually when they get married. I guess it would be similar. It's not like I didn't really put it in the context of it being like a prenup or something like that, but I mean, it's still a contractual agreement before they get married, that they would both be okay with getting DNA tests done every time they have a child at birth. And he believes, because he has seen and has experienced men that he are within his family that have went through that before and did not really even consider or think that the woman that they married could have done something like that, then it become an even greater problem because this was something that was swept under the rug, it was kept a secret, and now it's a monster. So for him, he's taking the things that have happened in the past that have a negative, right, connotation to them, and provide and implementing wisdom to safeguard from that. He does not believe, and he trusts her wholeheartedly, but and if trust is not an issue in the relationship, he believes that, well, why wouldn't you be able to sign that, knowing that both you and I would never even think to do something like that, right? So that's the husband to be's argument, but the wife to be is saying no. This is just gonna be, it's just not the way that I want to start our marriage. I don't want to even think about that. I would never do anything like that. So I really just think that you might not be aware that it's still something that is traumatizing to you that you are now placing on our relationship. So what are your thoughts, guys? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Oh my gosh. Hey, beautiful Jan. How are you? How are you? Just came on the end of my scenario. But I put out a question tonight to the folks that are on. Do you think, or would you be in favor if the government did mandatory DNA tests at birth? Mandatory DNA test at birth. And that question is tied into the scenario tonight because we have a young couple who is engaged. They're doing premarital counseling. The issue that comes up during the counseling is that the gentleman says that he would like, when they get married, and before really they get married, to have a contractual agreement that every time that a child is birthed, that a DNA test will be done at birth. The lady is startled. She's like, what? Why would we need to do something like that? I can't even fathom that you would believe that I could even, do something like that to you, to us, etc. He says he has experienced it in his past where family members have found out that certain children that they thought were theirs were not. And he saw what a disaster it was when, after years of fathering children and then realizing that that child was not theirs, how much toxicity, right, it put into the family. So he's saying, now if I put this contractual agreement, it's just a way for me to really safeguard myself, us, our family from, I'm basically applying wisdom. That's the way that he views it. It's not that I don't trust you, but I think that this is a wise thing to do. And if you know that both you and I are not planning ever to be unfaithful to each other and step out in the relationship, then there should, in that way, I feel like we could both sign this, But she's like, no, I think that it's automatically, for me, seems like more so that this is your trauma that is now being placed on, the future of our relationship and us starting a family, and that we should just come into the relationship knowing that we're going to be faithful. So that is the scenario. What do you guys think, folks? What do you guys think, right? What do you think on both of those things, right? On the question that I put out, what if, let's just say, in my imagination, what if the government, right, was flirting with and thinking about making it mandatory to do DNA tests at birth? Right, for each child that's born, to do DNA tests at birth. Would you be a citizen that would be in favor for that? Or would you be like, no, because of course people are like, I don't want the government in anything, What do you think that would be a good thing? Do you think that would make people more mindful, more careful? Would it strengthen the idea of nuclear families, what are your thoughts? Or you think, no, totally opposite, right? And of course, you don't have to. I mean, I think it's great. Ideally, in my opinion, I think it's best if you're married and you have a child. But of course, we know that's not always a scenario. That you don't have to be married, and plenty of people have children out of wedlock. So let me know what your thoughts are. And again, I tied it in with the scenario tonight because, again, we have this young couple who's in premarital counseling and talking about, all the different areas and all the things that might come up in their marriage. And this is an issue that comes up because the men would like to have a contractual agreement that every time a child is born, that a DNA test at birth is given because he has experienced it in his family. And where, the father of that child, right, thought that, of course, he wasn't thinking that that child wasn't his or that the wife that he, wed could even have the capacity to do something like that. But for many years, it wasn't until years after until he found out, and he just saw how disastrous that situation and the toll that it took on the family. And so now he looks at it as putting something in place to safeguard that. Not that he lacks trust in the relationship, not that he does not believe in their relationship or both of their a capacity to have self-discipline and things like that. And so he doesn't feel like it should be really an issue for them to sign something like that. Where she's like, no, I can't, I can't fathom moving forward, feeling that there is, not having a thought that there was an extreme, maybe not extreme, but definitely a space of lacking trust and belief in their relationship. So what are your thoughts? You're the coach, you're the therapist. What are you telling them tonight? Who are you agreeing with? Are you agreeing with the man? Are you agreeing with the woman? Outside of the context of the scenario, if, right, that was something that the government did flirt with, to have mandatory DNA tests, do you think that would be a good thing? That, like in the scenario where the gentleman is saying that it would help people to avoid, right, disastrous outcomes of people having, taking care of children that they thought that was theirs, but, wasn't biologically, I'm sure, after, taking care of a child for so long, and most definitely, I would assume that it would most definitely be, I don't know how you could detach, after years of nurturing, cultivating, a child's life, to think that, to not feel like they're yours after that. But yeah, so that's the scenario, guys. And the quote, I didn't want to put out the quote. There's actually two quotes that I want to present to you guys tonight to let me know what your thoughts are on it. The first quote I'm going to read to you guys because I heard it from and I hope I'm going to pronounce his name right. I hope I'm going to pronounce the name right. It's Vivek Ramaswamy. I hope I pronounced that right. Oh my gosh. Vivek Ramaswamy. If I didn't, I'm so sorry. But many of you guys might be familiar with him because he initially, had a presidential run. Of course, he dropped out. He was running on a Republican side for the Republican ticket. And of course, we all know he did not. His came to an end because then Trump became their number one nominee. But he is coming out with a book called Truths. And it's basically a book where he said it's going to expound upon 10 truths, right? And he put them in like a quotable form. And one of the truths that he was talking about, he was on an interview with Jordan Peterson, which is absolutely love him and his wisdom. And so I was watching him interview him on a podcast, a little short snippet of it. And one of the truths that he said that caught my attention is the quote that I want to give to you guys tonight. And so the quote goes like this: "The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind." Love it. And the second quote that stood out to me that he also stated in the same interview is that facts are not conspiracies, which I absolutely love. Let me say that again. Facts are not conspiracies, right? So those are the two quotes for tonight. Let me know your thoughts on them. Do you think, of course, there's truth to it? And let me know, how do you think it would be used or conducive, to apply in growing intimate relationships, right? So let me say them again. The first one is the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. And the second one is facts are not conspiracies. And the reason why I thought about these two quotes for me, knowing that I was going to present this scenario to you guys tonight, is, just thinking about me giving her the perspective of what she was saying to her future, hopefully future, her fiance, her future husband, saying that, I think you introducing this is just your trauma, leading you, basically, the fear of whatever you experience. And now you're imposing that on our relationship. And I thought about the facts are not conspiracies, because I think sometimes, you guys can let me know, anybody who has gone through something that they would deem was a traumatic experience for them, that oftentimes I don't think it's unwise that if you've experienced something traumatic, that you do put, things in place to safeguard yourself from not, from not having to go through some of the dysfunctional behaviorisms that you've been exposed to. So I definitely thought about that. And I don't, just in me thinking about this scenario, I don't think him saying that is him necessarily living out his trauma. I do think it is what he's saying, that, I've seen this occur. That's definitely a fact. It's not a theory. It does happen. And I can't say that the people who go into it saying, I know I'm going to do this, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in situations, sometimes we get into certain spaces where, people do unthinkable things, So that was the reason why I wanted to state that quote, facts are not conspiracies, because it kind of reminded me of what the scenario was about. And then, of course, the nuclear family. I love that. Hey, Maya. The first quote that I said, the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. I absolutely love that, because I think in the fiance, the husband to be, when he presents this, I think that's what he's trying, right? I think that's in knowing that, right? That the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind, because I say it all the time here, that the family creates the community creates the society, right? And the society governs, right? And builds the nation. So whatever happens in that first nuclear system of governance then literally has a rippling effect on everything else that we do, right, in life. So let's just pretend and let's act like maybe he also, right, said that statement to their counselor or to their coach when they're presenting this issue, that he's like, yeah, the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance. And so for me, I want to do my due diligence to set us up with the greatest advantage. For maybe if there are moments, right, where weakness comes in, that it gives us something else to think about and kind of counteract us doing something that we might regret later on. So let's just say he says that too, right? So let me read some of Emily's statements, and then I know Maya just came in, so I'll just say the question for tonight and kind of summarize the scenario again if she wants to answer. Emily says, it's one thing for a couple to agree to DNA testing after birth, but the government mandating it is another. Okay, so yeah, so Emily's like, what? The government? She's like, I don't like the government being up in this, right? But the parents can, but not the government. So Emily says there are some things the government should not get involved in. Okay, so she's like, in nowhere, shape, or form should it be a government mandate, issuing a mandate that with every child, there should be a DNA test. Okay. So aside from it, Emily, thank you for answering that first one. If you are the young lady in this, and maybe Maya coming in, who are the other ladies who are in here, if you are in that situation where somebody, you guys are engaged and you're doing the counseling and something like this comes up where your future husband-to-be says that before we get married, I would like us to sign a contractual agreement stating that with every child, at birth, we will have a DNA test. Is that a red flag for you? Is it pause, do not pass, go? Are you like, well, sure, yeah, I will. I have nothing. I won't, I have nothing to hide, or are you thinking like the young lady in this scenario saying, I can't, why would you even think of that? That's not even necessary to me. You automatically feels like you don't trust me, and that it's, in her words, because he's saying this, Maya, who just came in, he said this during the counseling session because he actually went through an experience where a family member fathered children that he thought was his, and many years later found out that the children were not his, and he saw how disastrous that was and how much toxicity and the toll that it took on so many members of the family, and he wants to put something in play to safeguard that. So it's not him leading with trauma, but it's him just leading with wisdom. And because he does have all belief and faith in that both of them will commit to each other and stay loyal, that it shouldn't be a problem for both of them to sign it. She's like, no, there's no reason for it if we have complete trust and that you truly believe that I could not even, even come up to do something like that. So Emily says, no, she'd do it. Okay. Okay. Interesting, Emily. So Emily's like, no, not a problem. I'll sign it. Okay. So then are you, for his reasonings, do you think that, he's not, would you disagree with the young lady in the scenario? He's not leading with his trauma, and that it's wise and that you have nothing to hide, so it's okay, and I'd be fine with signing that, just as long as the government isn't involved and it is something that we personally decide. Okay, interesting. I was presenting this earlier of what I was going to present to you guys, and I thought this person made a very interesting comment. At least I thought it was interesting. They said they were in favor of the first question that I asked you guys. Would you be in favor of the government mandating, mandating there be DNA tests at birth? And this person said, it's so interesting. When we go into different countries, they automatically, right, they ask for your passport to enter. Some kind of, identification that you are who you are. So I guess they basically compared it to that, that it's interesting that, as we get older and we have to travel and things like that, that we are required to have certain things and to prove certain things. So for them, they said it would be the same thing, and that it would be a good idea for the government to do that. So let me know what your thoughts are. We've got Emily. I've got one so far that says not a problem. If she was the young lady in the scenario, she would not have a problem signing that at all. So I'm curious to see if anybody thinks differently, that they would have a problem. Okay, so Emily says, and I'll put this on so people can see because it's quite long, so that when I'm reading it, you guys can see it too. Okay, Emily says, see, I'm neutral on this because I understand why the man would want to get his children DNA tested. But at the same time, I think that people have the right to deny DNA testing. Interesting. So she in her, if it was her personally, she wouldn't have a problem with it. But within this scenario where he's asking that they sign a contractual agreement, saying that they both would be okay, she's like, I understand where he's coming from, but she has a right to deny the DNA testing. Yeah, people do have a right. She's right about that. Very true. Very true. I don't. I think I'm like, Emily. I wouldn't mind. I'm like you, Emily. I would not care. I would sign it because I don't. In my, if I was her, I wouldn't have anything to hide, and I have close friends of the family. I've seen them go through that, and I've heard of it happening more often. It happens more often than not than what people, highlight. Hey, Truth and Rhyme, how are you? Thank you for popping into the podcast. Hope everything's well with you. Tonight, we are doing a scenario. I did present a quote and a question. My question for tonight was, would you be in favor if the government mandated mandatory DNA tests at birth? Would you be in favor if the government mandated, mandatory DNA tests at birth, verifying that both parents were right? Well, of course, the woman is right. It really would be for the father to show that he is the father of, the child or children that are being born at birth. So that's the question that I put out. And it's tied into the scenario for tonight because I put a couple out who is going through premarital counseling because they are engaged. And this is one of the issues that come up because the gentleman in the relationship has proposed and presents that he would like to have a contractual agreement written up that they both sign saying that with each child, a DNA test will take place at birth because he has seen situations like that occur in his family. And it was disastrous when it did come out that the children that the men were taking care of were not their own. So he thinks this is wisdom that he is putting in play to avoid that bomb, from blowing up later on. But she thinks, no, it definitely is a sign of lack of trust and lack of belief. And if he believed and trusted and knows her character and knows that that's not something she would even fathom or think of, that there's no need for that. And that he's actually leading with fear from the trauma that he's experienced. So, what are your thoughts? Let me know. It's great because I would love to hear the male perspective on this or a man's perspective on this. So far, I have myself and Emily wouldn't mind signing anything like that on a personal level, but Emily does not think that the government should be involved in certain things, and there should be no mandate that they enforce where people have to do it. But it's another thing if, the couple personally and privately agree to it. But in this situation, she understands the man's point of view, but believes in the right of the woman to deny it. So that's what we have so far. And, another thing that triggered me, I don't want to say triggered me, but motivated me to bring you guys this situation tonight was a video that was sent to me. And I don't know if this video is real. I hope it's not real. It was very funny, but not funny, right? But it was basically, and I don't know if you guys have seen it because it was on Instagram, that I think it's an Instagram reel that they sent to me. And it was of a very elderly couple that in the video they said that they were married for, have been married for 50 years. And in the video, the man was saying, these 3 children, I've always wondered, they don't look like me. And that, one time when he came home, he saw this car fleeing, and he asked his wife who that was. And she said it was just a repairman, et cetera. Anyway, but it was supposed to be like, one of those, courtroom kind of like where you find out who's the father, if the father is really the father. And literally she read off each child, and each child was not his child. Right? And I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, I hope this is not real. I hope this is just like a comical thing that somebody brought up. But the reality is that situations like that happen, situations like that happen. I will share with you a close, they're friends, but I became so close to their family that they're like, family to me, where that actually happened, right? Where it was a husband and wife, they had a son and a daughter, and I don't know how long they were married at this point. I don't know the exact, but I know they had to have been married for at least more. I don't know the exact number, but definitely at least for, at this point, 15 years or more, 15 plus years, right? And he basically finds out that his oldest daughter is not his. And the only way that he found out, right, because it wasn't presented to him, the wife did not tell him, so it basically was something that he found out through a process that he was going through. And he was basically switching their family's life insurance. And anybody who has inquired about getting life insurance, usually you need to take blood tests, and somehow, I guess, with what the type of life insurance that that they were trying to get, and all of the blood work and things like that came in, the life insurance agency called him and said, we can't, like there's some discrepancies basically between your blood work, your daughter's blood work. We can't, and literally that's how he found out that she wasn't his child. And I mean, at this point, she was, because they had her at a very young age. No, it had to be, I'm wrong, because it was definitely more than 15 years, because at this point when he found out, she was already going into like adulthood. I think she was either 19 or 8. So, yeah, it does happen. And oftentimes when it does happen, it can go, I don't know if unnoticed is the right word. It sounds like such a not a strong enough word, you know, it's not exposed, right off the back. And so, and I, I was heartbroken, right? Because they were so close to me and they were always so kind and so nice to me. And it definitely was a broken heart for him, for sure. And I think something like this, like having a DNA test at birth, it kind of helps to at least avoid some of the toll that would come with, right? Finding out that either there's, a secret child that's really not yours, maybe not a secret child, that's a whole nother scenario, right? But finding out that there's a child that's not yours after years of putting your heart and soul, you're dedicating your life, right? So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Oh my goodness, Emanuela, how are you, love? Thank you for popping in. I hope you and your beautiful family are doing well. I would love to know your thoughts on this. This is my show, Forever Friends Academy, and on Sundays I present a scenario. And the question I was asking the folks that are on tonight is, would they be in favor if the government mandated to have mandatory DNA tests at birth? And that question is tied into the scenario that I put out tonight, where there's a young couple, they're in premarital counseling because they are engaged. The fiance, the husband-to-be, brings up saying that he would like for the wife-to-be, both of them, to sign a contractual agreement that at the birth of each child, they will have a DNA test, because it is something that he has experienced, that his family has gone through, and he saw how disastrous that was. So this is him exercising wisdom, putting something in play to safeguard that. She thinks, oh no, lack of trust, lack of belief, lack of faith in us, in me. There's no reason for that. If you couldn't even fathom that I would have the character to do something like that, why would we need that? And she thinks he's just proceeding with the fear of the trauma that he's experienced. So he thinks wisdom, she thinks trauma, So let me know if you're still in here. What are your thoughts on that? That's what we're talking about tonight. So far, I've had one woman say she wouldn't have any problem signing it. She would do it. However, in the scenario, she understands the man's perspective, but does believe that the woman has, or any person has, the right to deny signing any kind of, DNA test. So, yeah, so that's what we're talking about, folks. Let me know what your thoughts are. I know, I used to think, in a very, in my a lot younger years. I'm talking about just growing up, right? Childhood, teenagehood. I always, at first, I was much what I would call a woman crusader in my eyes, because of the things that I was exposed to, and of course my immaturity and my lack of understanding. I thought, oftentimes that men had the upper hand, and that they were the ones that, would not do the right things in relationships. And I would think that the women were, always showing up, always there, loving and caring. And then they would just, go through these harsh things because maybe they just chose the wrong man, but they didn't know how to leave because they loved them so much, So it was definitely very much the victim mentality when it came to women and how they need to be protected and saved. And I would not consider that women doing something like this would even be, like, I wouldn't even fathom it. But as I got older and grew more mature and definitely had more experiences, you realize that it is most definitely possible, and it happens a lot more often than not. Now I know, and I'm considering what Emily said on the first question that I, presented to you guys, like the government mandating certain things, and I understand, like the government shouldn't have their hands in the personal lives of people, and I get that, the sentiment of it. But I think a mandate like that, if they did do it, something like that is not. I'm trying to, and of course, I still have to think on it more because I just, thought about it to bring it up to you guys tonight. I'm trying to like weigh the pros and cons of, would it cause more harm? Would it do more harm than good? And right now, I'm kind of leaning to, I think it would do more good than harm, just because I think if I'm thinking, and of course, rules are set in place, it doesn't mean that everyone is going to abide by those rules. And many times people try to find different ways or shortcuts. But I'm thinking if that is something that they do put in place, that definitely, at least in the minds of people, might cause them to act a little bit more prudently when it comes to that, knowing that it's going to be exposed right away from the beginning, and not that it's something that, someone can do and literally live out a lie for years and years and years and, not get caught. So I'm still weighing it out because I understand what Emily's saying. And, there's a large portion of it where I agree with that. But then I think about what the person I was talking to before brought up. And I'm like, I get that too. I'm saying, well, when we have to fly out the country, first thing we got to do is present that passport to identify who we are, right? So how much different, or how much more should we identify that the children that we are bringing into into the world are, that it is actually the father's, So I understand. Oh, MF Stars, you are the right person. I'm so glad you came in here. How are you? I hope you're still in here. How are you doing? First of all, but second of all, I really would like your opinion on this. Another perspective. Hey, how you doing? Definitely want to hear a man's perspective on this, because yeah, I think it definitely is really a scenario that would affect you guys more, right? So yeah, it has been a while, right? So I put out a question tonight. The question of tonight's episode is, would you be in favor if the government, right, mandated to have DNA tests at birth? Would you be in favor, as a man, would you be in favor of that? That's number one. And it was tied into a scenario that I presented tonight of a couple who is engaged, and the gentleman brings up during their premarital counseling that he would like for both of them to sign a contractual agreement that every child that they have will, at birth, a DNA test will be done, right? Because he has seen situations like that go on in his family, where men have raised children that were not their own, and he saw that it was disastrous and that it took a toll on the family. So this is him using wisdom and implementing a system, that will safeguard for the disastrous aftermath of, right, something like that ever occurring. His wife to be, however, says, no, no, no. This is lack of trust. This is lack of belief. This is lack of faith. If you know how I am, you know my character, you wouldn't even present something like that. And I don't believe it's you applying wisdom. I believe it's you acting out of fear from the trauma that you've experienced, from, whatever negative blowbacks that occurred within your family because of these situations. So, what what side? And I see Maya came back. Hey, hey. What side? I guess do you lean more towards? Are you with the gentleman? Like, well, no, he definitely looks like he's implementing wisdom here. Nothing wrong with that. And as much as she's saying, that it's if we have faith and belief in the relationship, we wouldn't need to sign it. He feels like same thing, right? On the other end, it would be no problem to sign it because we believe in us and we're not going to find ourselves in a scenario like that, right? Or do you lean more towards the woman in this situation, the wife to be, and says, no, it's definitely him acting out of the fear of his trauma, and that there would be no need for that. All right. Maya said, the safeguard is following the voice of God and choosing a wife. Ooh, so I'm guessing, since Maya said that there is no contractual agreement needed after listening to the voice of God to choose your wife. Okay? Oh, wow. Okay, so let me know if I'm reading that right, Maya. Maybe you meant it in a different way, but from the way you wrote it, it seems like you're saying no. I'm gonna put that on the broadcast too, so that people can see that. There's no need for a contractual agreement after you have went and consulted the Lord about your wife. That's all the safeguard you need is that you consulted the Lord. Interesting. Interesting. I'm sure there could be, I think there could be a lot of pushback on that. And not to say, right, because we don't know the intricacies of how people chose, right? But I would say that there are, and a lot of the scenarios that I know where that this has actually taken place have happened within the church. Before you guys came on, I was explaining to them, when I was younger, I used to think like this is just stuff for Lifetime movies, right? Like this doesn't really happen, and because I witnessed so many relationships at a young age where I felt like the man in the relationship was, right, the agitator. He was the one that was causing the problems. I was short-sighted for sure. Like I did not see it in expansively, that it takes two people to, groom and grow and cultivate a relationship. And it also takes two people, to like let it just fall apart. So I was definitely an advocate for women, and not necessarily thinking on the men's side. And thankfully, God switched that around real quick because I wanted to learn more about men because I didn't have my father, and because I was willing to be open to learn both the positive aspects and the negative aspects. Then I was presented, right, a lot of positive qualities in men, and started to kind of learn from them and understand, right? And I was telling them that there was a close family that, well, they're still close to me, and they were churchgoers, church-going folk. And it turned out that they had a son and a daughter, older daughter and a son, and the husband only found out that the older daughter wasn't his biological daughter because he was trying to switch their life insurance plans. And for many of those insurances, you have to do, lots like blood work and things like that. And literally the only way he found out was because the company called him and said that there's some discrepancies here. And lo and behold, he found that out, and the wife had not told him all those years. And he was absolutely broken, and so these are people who believe in God, So like I said, I don't know the ins and outs, and I can't say just because someone goes to church or someone says they believe in God that they actually did consult God about, choosing their wife, and depending on who they are and how much they've been acclimated with the truth and being able to truly hear from God and all that, that if they heard right, there's so much things that can go into that. So I say that that there could be a lot of pushback on that. I remember, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Tyler Perry documentary on his life, but somewhere at the end he talks about his father. He always talks about his father being very abusive to him, and he said, I don't understand how this man could be so abusive to me if I came from him. Like, how can a father who you're his biological son be so abusive? And it turned out that he found out in the documentary that his father never thought that he was truly his, and then it comes like literally years later, and I think it's close to actually his mother passing away, that she comes out and finally tells him that no, that's not your real dad. That he's actually his stepfather, and so he always had that type of gut feeling and inclination, not to say that it is justifying his abuse at all, but that gut feeling that he had was right, and so it's so interesting because if you have watched any of, whether it's Tyler Perry plays or his movies, there's so many that have that kind of reoccurring pattern in it, or issue, where there's a woman where she's hiding, and they find out the child's not theirs. So I'm just saying that it happens. And I think before you guys came in, I said the quote for tonight, and the quote that I said tonight, let me just say the name because I want to say it's right. I want to say it right, and I still don't know if I look at it right now if I'm going to say it right, because it's such a interesting name. But it comes from Vivek Ramaswamy. And he was a presidential candidate. He was running for the Republican ticket, but of course we all know who Trump won the Republican ticket. But he's coming out with a book, and it's about 10 truths. And one of the truths that he said it resonated with me, and the quote goes like this: the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. So hence why I wanted to put it with this scenario. And I put before you guys came on that the gentleman in the scenario, he says that to their coach, right? He says that, and he's like, because I know the weight of that and that I understand that, I want to put as much things in play that will give us a great advantage to succeed at this. Because it's not that I don't trust her. I don't think that she has that type of character that would do that, but neither did those men that I talked to about their wife. And there are many times, just being human, or going through different seasons in relationships that aren't the best, where temptation comes, where weakness, weak moments come at us. And if there are things that are put in play that will help counteract us from doing, a reactive or do an action that we regret later on, I feel like if we put this in play, it will also be something that will help to counteract that. So I want to say, leave some time because I got people talking now. Yay. So let me read some of these beautiful statements that people are taking time to type out. So let me say thank you guys for typing. How people choose matters. MF Star said, agreeing with what Maya said, which I agree. Maya says, absolutely, LOL. The safeguard is seeing the relationship with God's eyes. Prenups protect. How does this protect if fidelity isn't a legitimate concern? Well, now that's interesting, Maya, because if you're signing a prenup and there are stipulations that are put in it, I was gonna present this scenario because we talked about prenups the last time I was on, and I was like, maybe I should present this scenario as like an extra addendum of what they put on the prenup, but I decided not to do that. But we talked about actually prenups the last podcast, but I can see how this would be similar though to a prenup though, because right in prenups protect, meaning like you're putting certain things in play just in case something comes up. But in my last scenario that I brought up, the wife to be also had thought that him bringing up for her to sign a prenup was bringing up lack of trust, and same thing, right? And he the gentleman in that issue said exactly what you said. No, it's just protection. It's why do we have to let this contractual agreement govern our life as to say that this is automatically going to set us up for failure, because it automatically means distrust. It's not like that. Why can't we look at it like life insurance? Why can't we look at it like car insurance? You don't want to perceive that you'll ever get in an accident or things like that, but you put things in play to cover you, because you don't want to deal with the natural grief that comes along with all those things, and then now also still have to, right, deal with the fact that we did not have these things laid out. So interesting. Maya says, everybody who says they heard God ain't telling the truth. Well, yeah, that's true. And she said, and God will expose wrongdoing as well if you stay in his heart. You'll know real quick and be able to prevent attacks on fidelity before they happen. That's that spiritual intel. Okay, I've heard those stories too, child. They be trying to keep their homes together by any means necessary. Yeah. Okay, so MF Star says, I'm with the guy. Okay, so this is my this is my first reaction, in response from a man's perspective. So he says, I'm with the guy, pushback or not. We have a right to know, just like she has a right to create the child. Okay. Maya says, child, I don't know. I'm only 24. But God be speaking in the pick and practice and showing pitfalls or sending people to show what you're missing. I will say that even though that's a huge deal and shows a lot about where his heart is, if this was presented to me, I'd be fine providing the security of signing the document. Okay, so this is the second woman so far that said that they would be fine. Emily said she would be fine with signing the document. I also said I would be fine because I feel like I don't have anything to hide, And I do think that if you do put things in play, even though you can't fathom you do something like that, when you know there's things in play, you're going to second guess doing something that you could, would definitely just turn your life upside down, right? So so interesting. Okay, I got third woman tonight that says she wouldn't mind signing it. Emma Star says, but personally, that doesn't matter to me. Really? If you studied when you're dealing with, you should know what's up way before that stage, creating a child. That's why patience is so important in investing. Okay. Time to really get to know someone is concrete. Maya said, in sin, you're not even thinking 9 months ahead, though. I know. You're right. She said, dirty spirits be singularly focused on the moment. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing. Emma Star says, that's them, not me. I always think ahead, given how I grew up. And that I understood what I wanted and not want for me. That's why I said me personally. Okay, I don't disagree with your last comment, Maya. Just saying that part doesn't apply to me. Okay. Maya says, yes, not talking about you or your comment. I mean the spirit of adultery or lust. Yeah. Yeah. You guys making good points. Okay, so far I had 3 women, including that third one, including myself, that said, we wouldn't mind signing anything like that if it's for, if it will help with, security and things like that. And we have one man who says he's with the guy, pushback or not, even though personally it's not something that he necessarily feels that he would have to implement. Okay, let me know, MF Stars. Maya says, yes, he won't heal automatically because I say that's wrong and it's trauma. Oh, that's a good point, Maya. I'd let my honey have his time and let the Holy Spirit fix it for real. I like that statement, Maya. I'm gonna add that statement to the broadcast because I like that. Not that I didn't like your other ones. I liked your other ones too. But I think that's a good point. And I love that because you sound like you graduated from Forever Friends Academy. That's that where there's a therapist, and I forget his name right now because we just went over it on my Forever Friends private group coaching, where I showed them a video from a therapist that I like, and he was on a podcast, and they asked him, what do you think is the greatest thing that causes relationships to fail? And he said, it's basically me over us. Me over us. People can't get over thinking about me, or, instead of us. And I think it made me think of that, your comment, Maya, because when you start thinking like that, right? Because even if her statement that she's making, right, it might sound or it might sound right? It's like, well, it's just your trauma, that you're leading with and things like that. If you just say that to him, and even if you're right, it's not going to, as she said, right, that it's not going to automatically make him heal. So her holding space, to just kind of like let God handle it, work, work with him in time, to help him fix it and heal whatever is going on. I love that because right there, she got over the hurdle, even though it's not her situation clearly, but she if the lady in the scenario did that, right, she would be no longer focused on whether it was an attack on her character if she knows that her character is legit and fine, and if she is feeling like, this is still some residue from the things that he's gone through, when she can kind of like push aside, or not push aside, but allow the truth to filter, to understand that, if you know who you are, that's not your character and you're not going to do that. And maybe if you are seeing that this is residue from this, you're not going to be slighted in signing this because it's not really a struggle for you, right? But if this is the person that you are choosing and accepting their hand in marriage, where his healing becomes the priority, in that way. Not because she's and I don't want, because I know people watching, they'll probably be like, don't do that. Don't forsake your, your healing or who you are, your value, your worth. For him, that's not the statement that Maya is making. She's very clear on her. She's stable and she's secure in that. But they will keep going back and forth, between I'm right, this is your trauma you're doing, or versus him saying, no, it's wisdom. If she already knows she's strong within herself and knows that that's not even her character, and she does not, of course, we can't know all of the things that tomorrow holds, but she is strong in knowing the things that she already has put in place to combat, right, when those moments, lustful moments or whatever, temptations that come her way, she's finding that. So now she's offering space for her future husband, for God to allow the healing to come. And maybe if she allows that, he might, by the time they get married, right, he might not even want that thing anymore. Because, right, her doing that alone is going to, right, offer space and just affirm and confirm for the furthermore, right, the reason and why he would want to marry a person like her who can look beyond, and get past the surface of, okay, this feels like an attack on me, or that you're not believing in me, but I'm understanding that you're still possibly, and maybe he's not, right? But just if that's somewhat, right, somewhere holding room, that if that is the case, so I love what you said, Maya. Really good. Maya says, yes, sometimes Christians think that telling someone the truth will make it happen. You got that right, right? For sure. God forces nothing, it's His surrender. And the best thing I can do as a woman is express, pray, and get out the way. Okay. Okay. Did you? You should put that on a shirt. That's a slogan. She said, the best thing I can do as a woman, express, pray, and get out the way. Okay, let me put that on. Girl, this is like your third comment. You on a roll. This is you on a roll. You gonna take over. You take my job. You done took my job. I'm done. This is gonna be this is gonna be my podcast from now on, okay? She done graduated from Forever Friends Academy and now she's taking the whole thing over. Okay. I love that. Put that on a shirt. As they say, baby, right? Put that on a shirt right now. Start selling them. They need to sell out. Especially now with all the things going on now. Absolutely love it. Okay. She says, the Bible says they'll be changed by our quiet disposition. I love it. I love it. So I'm assuming that is the advice. You know, you're in the coaching chair. That is what the advice that you would give them. I think it's great advice. I think it's sound advice, and I think there will be so many times. You know, I think conversations go left so quickly because of the statement that I told you I heard from the therapist that I listen to from time to time on his podcast, where we have to learn how to get over, you know, go from me to us. And when you do that, I think the conversation and the resolution presents itself, that you don't have to force it, that the resolution presents itself, right? And so just like what Maya wrote, right? Like, the best thing I can do as a woman is express, pray, and get out the way. And, you know, definitely in culture right now, that is not the trending rhetoric, you know, or verbiage that we hear right now. But it's so true. You know, holding space for that. I would agree with that. Yeah. So I haven't heard anything about the first question that I presented to you guys. Would you guys be in favor if the government mandated, you know, DNA tests at birth? Or are you with, I had Emily come on and say, oh no. Like, the government shouldn't be involved in that. It should just stay within the personal, you know, between those two people. So let me know. But I thank you guys. You guys typed up a storm, so I so appreciate it. I love your answers. I'm with you all the way on a lot of the things that you guys said. Yeah, really, really good. Really, really good scenario tonight. And like I said, believe it happens a lot more often than we know. You know. Yeah, we know, right? Anybody who watched Maury, what's the other judge? Is it Judge Judy? I don't know. It's another like divorce court or. I mean, oh, God forbid, forgive me because I shouldn't be laughing because there's nothing funny about it. You know, the broken homes, but we've seen it. You know, where they're coming up, they're trying to figure out like, you're not the father or you are the father, and oh my gosh. So yeah, Maya says it depends. Is the government paying for them? Good question. Oh my gosh, she said, because I heard it costs thousands to have babies in a hospital already. Oh my gosh, you gotta love Maya. That's a good question, Maya. Is the government paying for them? Oh my goodness. She said, because that'll definitely increase home births. Right? Wouldn't it? I think it should be optional for married and mandatory for unmarried if the government won't pay. Okay. Hey, Mac, how are you? How are you and your beautiful family? Thank you for popping in with us. So you're probably like, what did I just walk in on? I posed a question tonight on if, you know, if the government is not true. So I'm not trying to put that out there. This is just from my imagination as far as I know. Um, we're talking about, would you be in favor if the government mandated DNA tests at birth? Do you think that would be a good idea? Do you think that would help to minimize children that are born where, certain fathers find out that maybe years, sometimes they don't find out, y'all. I remember there was a person that was saying that person don't know till this day that that's not their child. It's so crazy. But anyhow, do you think that would minimize that? Do you think that would reduce it? Do you think it would be better knowing and finding out at birth rather than, finding out years later after the man has put in time, energy, resources, etc., and how much of a greater toll it takes on finding out that secret afterwards? So that's what we're talking about, and I put in a scenario that everybody was talking and responding to tonight of a couple who is getting married. The husband-to-be wants them to sign a contractual agreement to do DNA tests at birth, and the wife was wife-to-be was pushing back and wanted said no. So that's what we're talking about. Let me know if you want to add any thoughts on that. Maya says they wouldn't do that though. Our death rate is supposed to surpass our birth rate before I turn 40. Oh, that is so depressing. The government knows we need stronger marriages. Sorry, I think before I turn 50. Okay. Well, either way, it's still depressing. Wow. So you don't think they would ever do that because they just need. So the government wouldn't do that because they just need more babies being born, whether it's in matrimony or not, whether it's the fathers or not. Let's get the babies in here to increase the birth rate. Wow, you make a point, Maya. Oh, Lord. And that's even sad. I just made it more sad. Hey, Jeff DeRay, how are you? So we are talking about the question that I presented tonight is would you be in favor if the government mandated DNA tests at birth to ensure that the children that are born, that the father is the father? And I put it in a scenario tonight of a young couple who's getting married, and the husband-to-be wants the wife-to-be, both of them, to sign a contractual agreement that they have DNA tests done at the birth of each child because he has experienced in the past where men have raised children that weren't theirs, and it was disastrous because they didn't find out until years later. Wife-to-be was pushing back at that, saying, no, that automatically is lack of faith, lack of trust, lack of belief in us, etc. So feel free to chime in on any of that. Interesting point, Maya. Interesting point. I just go back to the quote that I said to you guys. Absolutely love that quote. Because it's so true. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind, The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind because we know it all starts there, right? It all starts there. So I think putting as many things in play, to support it, that will keep in our minds to honor it and respect it and not dismantle and throw away, the sacred union that we're in for a moment of temptation or a moment of lust or things like that. As many things as we can put into play, it'll help, right? And I always say to any of my couples that come to me, I don't care how good you feel your character is, never say never. I think having a humble heart of understanding that whatever goodness comes from you, it comes from your openness to receive the nature and the character of God and the nature and the character of love, and to constantly pray to ask God to keep you in that good nature. Because I've talked to different people who I would say are very, like the example I gave you guys before, this family was a loving, this family actually took me in when I was was a teen before I went out to college, because there was a situation that happened at my home where I didn't feel safe, and they took me into their home, and the wife was amazing because listen, I'm a little teenager, young looking, young prime, good looking teenager in her house. You know what I mean? Like, she knew how I was, but I'm just saying, if you can because I'm a married woman now, and I've done that many times before, and I know what kind of selflessness and what kind of security it takes to do that, because there are many women who that situation might have been presented to them, and they were like, yeah, this little pretty young thing is not coming to my house to even give any kind of temptation to my husband, whether she's secure or not, right? I'm just talking to you real, right? But what I'm saying is that she did. She let me in her house. They were good to me, both her and her husband. They let me stay for at least a month, maybe slightly a little bit more, until the scenario at my house kind of died down, and it was safe for me to go back. And she was loving, caring, nurturing. There was nothing that she did that would have ever gave me any kind of pause. Like, oh, I see. Like, yeah, that child ain't his. Like, nothing, right? And I'm living, and of course I didn't live there like for a whole year or years or something, but when you enter someone's household, it's very hard for them to hide certain things as far as like mannerisms and things like that when they let you to their home and you're seeing their daily routine, is what I'm saying. So it's not like someone where I was just looking from afar. Like, I intimately, knew them. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, to find that out later on was like a complete shock to me, because there was nothing that she gave that would give that off. Hey, how are you? I got all the gentlemen in here. How are you? Thank you for popping in. We are talking about, would you be in favor if the government mandated DNA tests at birth for, when a child is born, to ensure that the child that is born, that is their father. So that's what we're talking about. I put in a scenario of a young couple. The fiance, the husband-to-be, is presenting that they sign a contractual agreement to have DNA tests at the birth of their children, as a safeguard, because he experienced that happening in his family. So that's what we're talking about. But thank you for popping in. So that's why I say it to you guys, that it's not, you think of something like that and you think, at least when I was younger, I would think, oh, people, only certain people of a certain character do that. Like, you would be surprised the situations that good people find themselves in, for whatever reasons. So Maya said they do better mandating counseling, right? That's true. And improving the economy so my generation isn't scared to make them. Yeah, that would be good. And I think, right, that I think it goes back to your point, that even though I said that's depressing and that's sad, you bring up a good point, because if you have a government in a country that will see the opportunity that, okay, if we have to pay for that, we're not going to do it, right? If we have to pay for it and it will affirm and support the nuclear family, we don't necessarily want to do that. You know what I mean? Because we want to figure out of how we can, right, increase the birth rate. It doesn't matter whether it's within nuclear families, or done in a healthy and right way. We just need more people. We're not saying we need healthy, functioning people, or people who. So I understand what you're saying, Maya. That would be a great mandate, right? Counseling. Somebody needs to ask Kamala and Trump that. That's a good question. Well, what's the next town hall? Somebody need to ask. For real. Like, okay, any mandates on counseling and relationships and family, such a fundamental key component of life. Wouldn't that be good? Maya said, that's good. God is calling us back to his order and we'll receive that the easy way or the hard one. Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah, very true. Hey, MP Rowling, how are you? She said, yes, how will you support families, right? They spend 20 minutes on abortion and none on family. Ugh. Say that again, Maya. I'm going to put that one up too. Girl, you on a roll. I should pay you tonight. What's your cash app? I should pay you tonight for all the gems you dropping tonight, okay? For real. I don't know who taught you. Girl, you taught good. Jesus with you, heavy. No, I love it. Oh my gosh. No, she's talking truth. It's so true, right? It's like, but right, that's unfortunately, it's the breakdown of our government, and governing system, and definitely shows up in our medical system too, right? To just kind of like bandage stuff, patchwork it, but not really actually get to the root and really build fundamentally sustaining systems that will, right, pour into the nuclear family and things that are really the backbone of countries are made on. So really good points, guys. Really, really good points. Great discussion. I appreciate all of your, again, taking out the time to write and all the things that you guys stated. So just to wrap it up, just in case someone came in here and was like, what are they talking about? At the top of the podcast, the quote that I introduced was from Vivek. I always have to look at his name because I don't want to mispronounce it, even though I still probably mispronounced it, even though I'm looking at it. Vivek Ramaswamy. Anyway, presidential candidate for this, past round. We know that Trump is the Republican candidate now, but he was running for president. You might know him by that. But he is coming out with a new book, and the quote that I introduced this evening came from his new book, and it basically states that the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Let me know your thoughts on that. Do you think it's truthful? And we tied it into tonight's conversation about if the government was putting out a mandate to have mandatory DNA tests at birth, would you be a citizen, be in favor for that or against it? Do you think it would be something that would be useful to help people be more prudent, more mindful about how they're starting and creating families, etc.? Or do you think it would have more of negative connotations to it? I also presented a scenario of a young couple who is engaged during their premarital counseling sessions. The husband-to-be presents to the wife-to-be that he would like to have a contractual agreement signed by both of them, stating that there will be DNA tests done at the birth of their children as a safeguard, wisdom that he's applying from learning of experiences that happened in his family where men fathered children that were not theirs and found out years and years later. And he saw the disastrous toll that it took upon that it was, made to happen to the family because of it. Wife did not like that so much, felt like it was lack of trust, lack of belief, lack of faith, doesn't feel like there is a need to sign something like that if we truly know each other's character and we are sure in what we're doing, and feels like he is leading with trauma. So that's what we're talking about. And had great responses. Pretty much all the women so far that have responded said personally they wouldn't mind signing it. And I think I had one gentleman that said he also was on the side of the husband-to-be. And I think I have another comment from Delonte. He says, I'm Jamaican. Okay, yes. And there is a lot of that happening there. Come on now. So many kids given to the wrong man. Oh, could you? Whoa. I think doing that at birth is a great idea. Okay, so have a person who actually is like, that would be a great idea because it is actually going on. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I'm Jamaican too, and I've heard some wild stories. Not so much, I didn't know that part, but remember, I think a couple of years back, I was checking my birth certificate because some other people was telling me like they were just putting any old birthdays on the birth certificate. And I remember I was joking with my husband like, "Oh my gosh, what if I don't really know how old I really am?" Because they just put some random birthday. Oh my goodness. So yeah, definitely right. In certain countries, it definitely need to be mandated because fix it, Jesus, because this is a hot mess. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine somebody just giving you the wrong child? That is crazy. Mai said that might even heal some of the problems we see in the Black community. Absolutely. I definitely thought about our community, right? For sure. Absolutely. Because if you know that that's already mandatory, right? Like, you're gonna think twice. You're not gonna think that you're going to just be able to get away with this. And I remember having a recent conversation with someone, right? Because you automatically think like, okay, if the baby don't look like you, then you gonna know, and that's not true because you can, any of us know, anyone who's had children or seen other families have children, the baby can come out looking like any family member. But even still, right, even if the baby does look like you, there are stories where people, unfortunately, right, literally have slept with family members. So the child can end up looking very similar, right, to that person, but then they find out it's not there. It's uncle's the daddy, right? So it's just like so much dysfunction, It's so much dysfunction, and something like that put in place can definitely, at least present an opportunity to kind of avoid, something like that happening. So Maya says they got to keep a database like they do with people who have a record, so it'll automatically match baby to father. Yeah, right. Also, that would be great. And then I also thought about how it would be healthy and good for, right, people who might be put up for adoption, right, who might want to find the father later. Now, I mean, I know it would have to be, because I know there are certain places where I guess the person has to sign that they want to be found, but that's really more so in dealing with someone who is like a sperm donor, right? But just to find, the child's father, that would be advantageous for a situation like that as well. Yeah. So I see a lot of good in it. I know that I'm sure there are many people that might hear it and be like, no, I just think it would be a total disaster to have the government involved in such a personal issue. But I think of it on the same lines of like, we have laws, we have rules, we have certain governing systems that hopefully minimize the state of chaos that could, like subside in society if those rules and laws weren't there. If there wasn't a thought that if I do this, it will be a consequence, And so in the area of relationships, which I have also said many times tonight that it's the nuclear, as the quote says, that the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance in humanity. We want to minimize the chaos that's going on, in that area of life that then pours into so many other areas. And I think that's why the chaos, right, is continuing to go on as not only in Black culture, Black communities, but in others as well, because there's no accountability, there's no, you know, pre-thought, I guess, consequence. And don't get me wrong, right? Somebody listens to this will be like, well, they should know because life should happen. You should know that if you do this, it's going to mess up your life and things like that. And I understand that. But at the same time, that could be said for anybody who is going out and wants to kill somebody or do, some kind of domestic assault, right? That should be common sense too. But when you have laws in place and know that there are consequences that will are automatically put in play there, maybe it helps people think twice, three, four, five times before doing that, because there's something that's already put in play there. So we'll see. But love all of your answers and all of your feedback. I just wanted to wrap it on up and summarize it. Thank you guys for being on so late with me. But I'm definitely going to let you guys go to sleep and have a restful night. But I thank you. Thank you for going there with me tonight. I think it was an interesting conversation for sure. So we'll see, maybe I'm in the future. Maybe they will do something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Maya says, very true. I think of that video you showed where the man said something like he doesn't do business with men who are unmarried. I didn't understand until I saw and felt my honey's development to the point when God said he was ready. Whole different guy. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I love that you said that, Maya, because in this day and age, so many people are just like, what's the point of getting married? Like, there's no point of it. But statements like that is very true. There's a Jordan Peterson. He's many things, but he's definitely a psychologist, philosopher. He has his own academy now, which is amazing. I think it's called the Jordan Peterson Academy or Institute. But he had made a statement saying that, a man without, any kind of responsibility is not married, no children, has not looked at, is not a part of any kind of community, looking to serve outside of himself, becomes a menace to society, And that's, he's known and pretty controversial for saying very direct comments. I guess that's one of them. But I can understand what he's saying, because it does. I can definitely tell you experientially, I definitely saw my husband go through a transformation too, that only going through, right, and being married will afford that, so I appreciate that. Absolutely. Well, great conversation as usual, folks. I appreciate you. And God willing, I'll be back on Thursday. If you like anything you heard, thank you for everyone who came on here. So many people: Maya, Jan, Delante, Emma Stars, Emily, Emanuela. There's a lot of folks. If I didn't say your name, I'm so sorry, but I love you. Thank you for popping in, giving me your energy, your time. For however long you did. So I appreciate it. If you were someone new who popped in, definitely subscribe to my Forever Friends Academy YouTube channel. If you are not new and you do return and you love it and you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, okay? And share and like and comment so that the content can be spread, all right? So I appreciate it. And if you're looking to dive deeper, definitely, if you're on Twitch, Facebook, where else? Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. It's in the description. If you're on IG, click the link in my bio. You can go to my Forever Friends Academy to inquire about group coaching, private coaching, hear little snippets, etc. All right, so folks, great talking to you. Appreciate it. My good stuff. You were saying I need to cash app you because of all the great things you were saying, for real. So I appreciate you, hon. Have a good night, all. And as I like to always say, always remember to live, to love freely. Until next time, until my brain comes up with something else to talk to you guys about. I appreciate you. All right. Good night, one and all. Bye.